The nature of the beast is that not all the data that's collected from satellites, from weather balloons that go up, from surface observations, because basically every airport around the country takes wind, temperature, humidity, sky cover, snowfall, rainfall data. Not all of that data is perfect, okay? And if you enter that imperfect data into these equations that these numerical forecast models use, that error gets magnified with time, so that 7 to 14 days out is the furthest from reality. Like, it can make the difference between the models forecasting a storm and reality is you have a nice sunny day with high pressure right overhead. At that point in time, another ice age coming up. So that's why I say, be careful what you read about, okay? Because it's a very inexact science. You always hear that meteorology is an inexact science, and I'll be the first one to tell you that that's the case. Well, climatology is very much the same.
14 foot high, and they're probably 12, 14 foot long, or width-wise. And they're maybe 600 foot long. So we go along with our loaders and flip them this way, or we entirely flip the whole pile from one spot right over to the next pile. That's how we flip ours. I used to do it all with a pitchfork. And now I bought a loader, and now I got this. So they used to be real thin and cheap. But in the wintertime, the snow covers these piles up, and the heat is still in there on larger piles, and it's breaking down real quick. And if you have a lot of carbons in there, whether it's wood chips or straw or whatnot, that's heating up and breaking in. And if the air finds its way in there, it'll just keep blowing on it, just like a campfire when you're starting a fire, and it'll.
Jerry asked me if I would come and talk about invasive species. Well, what is an invasive species? I mean, all of these plants, they're here, they're growing, they're happy. What's wrong with them amongst themselves? Now, nobody's going to win, nobody's going to lose. But if you've ever seen a bittersweet vine growing up a sapling, and that sapling is bulging out and trying its hardest to not get killed, you know what? It ain't going to win. This guy's going to win. Bittersweet vines are limited in length only by the size of the tree that they're trying to kill.
Motivates anybody interested in renewables, really. The incentives, obviously those play a huge role in how financially viable this is. I would argue that renewables make lots of sense without incentives, and I'm probably the only person who will make that argument. But if you crunch the numbers and you have and you're a long-term thinker, and I'll get into it, it still makes sense. And then I just kind of covered that you want to use an experienced company, and really just someone you resonate with and trust would be a good measure. How do solar panels work? Well, you have sunlight will hit a panel, and electrons get knocked loose, and that irradiance will make those electrons travel in direct current, or DC electricity. That's what a panel produces, very much like a battery. That DC electricity will travel down line to something called an inverter. And an inverter doesn't convert, it inverts electricity.